Well, for more on the appointment of former FBI Director Robert Mueller as special counsel, we go to our CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid, who is in our Washington bureau. All right, good afternoon to you, Paula. So, first things first here, the Trump administration and Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein had resisted calls for a special counsel. Now here we are. What changed?
Well, let's look at this in the context of the law. I mean, arguably everything has changed over the past week. But since the beginning of this investigation, you've had the Attorney General, who was forced to recuse. You had the FBI Director overseeing the investigation, who was fired. He now says that he has memos where the president was interfering. If you look at the law says that you appoint a special counsel if there's a conflict of interest, extraordinary circumstances, or it's in the public interest. And if we look at what has happened over the past several weeks, even though those are subjective terms, I can't see anyone who could argue that there is not a possible conflict of interest, extraordinary circumstances, and that it wouldn't be in the public interest to appoint a special counsel.
Well, Paula, we've seen Mueller has gotten bipartisan support, which doesn't happen a lot. He was FBI director for 12 years. What more can you tell us about the reputation that he has and why he's getting so much support?
He's directly from central casting. In talking to sources, he is exactly what these FBI investigators need. They need someone who understands their work, who appreciates their work, and will potentially insulate them from any sort of further interference. He was appointed by George W. Bush to lead the FBI. He was unanimously confirmed. He even got an extension on his 10-year term as the FBI director and served under President Obama. So he is universally praised here as being the perfect person to come in and take control of what is an increasingly partisan, contentious investigation.
Paula, talk about the scope of Mueller's power here, because, as special counsel, he has to bring the findings to the deputy AG, but it's possible the public may never know any of his findings, right?
That's right. I would describe the parameters of his power here as intentionally vague. While Rosenstein's memo specifically says that he's appointing him as special counsel to look into the Russian government's interference in the 2016 election, it also says that he will have authority over any other matters arising from that. We know that's potentially a very big tent. We have a possible investigation into obstruction of justice. There's many other sort of tentacles of this. And I think they left it intentionally vague because once you start an investigation, you have no idea where it's going to go. We've already seen all of these different avenues, and I think Rod Rosenstein wants to make sure that Mueller has all the authority he needs, but if any sort of lines of inquiry get too far afield from this specific investigation, and Rod Rosenstein feels that the Department of Justice can take that part of the case back credibly and without conflict of interest, he reserves the right to do so. I've talked to top justice officials, and they won't say anything beyond the text, which, putting on my lawyer hat for a second, I read as very intentionally designed to be vague.
And Paula, we know there are other investigations going on right now, so how does this latest investigation impact those? Well,
again, we know specifically he's going to look at how the Russian government did or did not try to interfere in the 2016 election. That is specifically the investigation that Attorney General Sessions recused himself from. All of these other investigations, I think it will depend on how close they are to the White House. And the closer the investigation is to the White House, the more likely it is former Director Mueller will keep it in his basket, under his authority. But if there are other lines of inquiry, financial crimes, or anything that gets too far afield, it's likely the Department of Justice is going to want to take that back. I can't tell you how reluctant Rod Rosenstein was to hand this off to anyone else. It's a point of pride. He believes the Department of Justice is fully capable of handling investigations in a nonpartisan manner. But this, as we noted at the top of the segment, it's truly an extraordinary circumstance.
And just one more thing for you, Paula. How does this affect James Comey's testifying in front of Congress?
It'll be interesting to see, because we already heard that from sources that Director Comey would very much like to testify. I know the American public, certainly Congress, would like to know more about that memo and the other memos that he has written. What do they say? What do they indicate? But depending on what Mueller is able to glean from those memos, that may become a separate criminal investigation, and it could be difficult for Comey to go on the Hill and publicly testify to things where he could be a witness. At this point, we know Comey wants to testify. He is likely to try to talk publicly in some forum, but now it is unlikely that he will testify next week specifically to these memos. We may have to wait a little bit longer because, again, we don't know what these memos say. But if Mueller gets the sense that he needs to open a further criminal investigation, it's going to be really hard for the former leader of the FBI to come out and start talking publicly before that investigation is resolved.
Patience will be key here. Patience. Paula Reid, our justice reporter in Washington. Paula, thank you.